my father-in-law says, "You're going with an empty car, so why don't you take Mama with you?" So we took Mama with us. So you know, she was kosher and religious and didn't want to eat out all through the trip. The trip was nice. We went through Baltimore and so on. And so we'd stop at various Safeways, and she'd buy oranges and bread and cheeses and things like that. And so then she'd always sit in the back and she'd say, "Now, what would you have done if I didn't come along?" So, and you know, I had to be me. And so then we get to this one place in Tampa, which I shall never forget. And it must have been a bawdy place, you know. And we're looking for a place to stop, you know. So we stop at this hotel, and she has the room right next door. Now you're going to die laughing with this one. So we get into bed, and the darn thing starts creaking like you can't believe. So Oscar says, "Let's get out of this." He takes the mattress, sticks it on the floor. So there was no more creaking. Tales out of the past.
Tales is a good word for it.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So then we finally wind up in Palm Springs. Palm Springs? Yeah, not Palm Beach. Palm Beach?
Palm Beach.
Palm Beach. I get the two confused. So we wind up in Palm Beach, and it's beautiful there. And we're walking in the main street, and it was small at that time. Storekeepers are coming out. We're new people. They're looking. They can tell we're, you know, and oh, we could use a doctor here. We could use a teacher in Sunday school. We need so you know, it was very impressive. But when we got back to New York, it meant that he had to study for the exams, and he just wasn't in the mood to study for exams. So we never made it down to Palm Springs. Okay, you were the reason that we wound up in Tucson. Yes, Kenneth was. And so that was that episode. Well, the years went by, and then Kenneth, we had Kenneth, and we in Wickersham Hospital. You were born in Manhattan. And the reason you were born in Wickersham Hospital was because Dad's OB doctor at medical school, he was head of the OB something in the old city of New York, and he liked Oscar, so he told him that when he gets married, he would like to be the one to deliver his child. And he used the Wickersham Hospital in New York. I forget what street it's on, but it was on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th floor of this building, the Wickersham building. And it was a building where a lot of the society people went there to, when they were drunk, you know, to, what do you call it? Sober up. And so that was on one of the floors, see. And then one of the floors was maternity. So when they saw me there, they said, "Oh, doctor's wife. The worst patient in the world is a doctor's wife." So I had to show them that I wasn't the worst patient in the world, how to behave myself. So I started getting labor pains. And the nurse takes me by the hand. She says, "I have to show you something." She takes me by the hand, takes me into another room. And this woman is sitting and reading a newspaper. And all of a sudden she has a labor pain, and she goes, and then continues reading the paper. Well, this was her 5th child, so it was she showed me how easy it is one time you get to the 5th, but she wanted to impress me that it was, you know, not so difficult. Okay. All of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, I'm in New York, in Wickersham Hospital. I get company. You know, I had to go a day sooner because of the big trip from Brooklyn, you know. So I get company. My mother-in-law and father-in-law come visiting. I'm telling you, this happened all the time. And And I don't know, and then I'm getting the labor pains, and I think I'm having a little bit of a hard time. And my mother-in-law, God bless her, she was a good person. She says, wait, this isn't the real thing yet, and I think I'm dying. I'm telling you, I can remember that so distinctly. These are the little things that stick in my mind. All right, so then they went home. Then it's time for Kenneth to be born. So for some damn reason, pardon the damn, I shouldn't be putting that word in there. Whatever it is they had to give me to make life easy broke. And I had you in a complete natural birth without an anesthesia or anything. Do you think it was worth it, Richard? Tell me the truth. That's the way. They say that you don't remember labor pains. That's why people have children over and over. It's not true. That pain started here. And I can still feel it. Went all the way down to my toes and back up again. Finally, you were born. And you were the most beautiful thing in this whole world. You were. Unbelievably beautiful. I mean, everything about you was so smooth and nice, and you weren't red because it was a natural birth, and it was, nice. Okay.
What time was that?
Let's see, it was on let's see. I think it was on a Friday, I think it was about 10 o'clock in the morning, something like that. December 8th, we could go back and look it up,
Ninth.
Yeah. 9th, excuse me. So I know that it's the 9th. So anyhow, that was that. And then you came home and, we took care of you. We had lived in Ocean Parkway, 1777, was it? Ocean Park?
1755.
55.
When did you move there?
When did we move there? Well, when we moved away from let me think quickly, from the Bronx. We moved there.
Why there?
Well, I wanted to live in Brooklyn near the family and stuff like that. I didn't want to live in the Bronx.
So how did you find the place?
Well, it was a corner place, and I think either my mother or my mother-in-law found it for us. I don't know which. I can't remember that part of it.
Because it had an office, you could have the office.
Well, we could have 3 rooms for the office and 3 rooms for the house, which was not the most ideal thing because it didn't have a separate entrance. And so when you were born, and there was this business about the kids had to have fresh air, so I would put you in the carriage. We didn't have answering service in those days. And I'd stand outside in the long lobby, put the telephone on the window, and answer the phone from the outside when it rang.
Where in the lobby?
Well, in the outside, the building had a long entrance.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's it. I would stand right near where the window was over here, and I would stand here, put the phone here, and answer the phone, and be out so that you could have fresh air.
You had a long cord.
Yeah, long cord. Yeah, and that's the way it was for a while, and then we got answering service, so that changed things around. Then
You couldn't afford a cell phone.
we didn't know what that was, and then we didn't have diaper service yet either. So there was a long line, in the apartment there. There was 2 ends to the apartment, if you remember.
Right.
So, yeah, right.
Big hall,
Yeah,
hallway,
right.
And stairs going up to the apartments.
Right.
The apartments on those
Right.
sides. But where did you stand? I don't quite get that.
No, I was outside. I wasn't in the
Out in the
hall.
street.
I was out in the street.
Oh.
You were getting fresh air. So this is all him. I haven't reached you yet. Wait till I get to you, boy.
Right.
So, and you were allergic to milk. So I had to give you some kind of soy milk, I guess it must have been a brown milk. So when I took you out in the carriage and people saw this brown milk in the bottle, they couldn't understand what it was all about, But that was that. So then we got answering service, and then I got a maid, so I could have the maid in the house, or the maid take you out, and so it worked both ways. And we used to get maids very cheap in those days. They came in from the Midwest. I had one girl that the police came for, and she was a kleptomaniac. Another girl she had received a letter from somebody, and I don't know how I got to see the letter. Something about you can't trust Whitey, just be careful, that sort of thing. So then I had one girl that was nice, but she didn't look good, So I tried to dress her up and so on. So Trudy Friedman took her instead, and so on. That's the way it went. It worked out. Then I got Ann River too. So with you were the thing of her eye, believe me. So then I put you in nursery school, and then he was born. He was born at Madison Park Hospital.
And how old was I when I went to nursery school and he was born?
4.5 years. You're 4.5 years difference. How the difference, isn't it? 4.5?
I think he's about 6 years old.
Oh, no, he's not.
You're how old now?
59.
I'm 59 right now.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
It was about a 4.5. Yeah, 4.5, something like that. So then he was
Wasn't I young to go to nursery school at 4?
No, they had them in nursery school at age 2. I only had you there part-time
Where did I
anyhow.
go to nursery school?
No, in the neighborhood, was not too far away. We took you there by car. We didn't.
I didn't like it, probably.
I don't think you did.
I remember it.
I'll tell you what happened. You were a brat. What happened was we bring him home from the hospital. He's born at Madison Park Hospital. And you're excited because he's born. And we're in the car, and I let you hold him because I want, after all, I studied psychology, I had to do the right thing. So I put him in your arms, and you carry him. You're really proud and everything else. We get into the house, and Henry is there. Or Henry was with us. I don't know. Henry's on the scene. And we get into the house, and I put you on my bed, and you on the bed, and I undress you, and he's leaning over you like this, and he's admiring you. He's such a good brother, and you urinate right in his face. And don't ask. You ran out. You were so upset. I said to Henry, take care of this little guy. I got to go take care of Kenneth.
That explains a lot later on in life.
Absolutely. I'm not kidding. Don't think that he didn't pinch you and everything whenever he had an opportunity to do it.
I know.
So anyhow, that was quite exciting. Then it was difficult because, the quarters were tight. It was 3 bedrooms, and I had to keep things quiet. You cried a lot.
Can you describe the apartment?
Yeah, I don't even want to describe it.
Yeah.
Well, you walked in, and you had the waiting room, and the examining room, the doctor's office, the desk, and all that there. Then there's a door in between, and then you walked in, and you saw the kitchen, and then there was the living room, and then there was the bedroom. So I had to work it. So we had the crib in the bedroom, and I had you on a couch, on a folding bed in the living room. That's the way we worked the sleeping quarters. So that was not easy. That was difficult. You, at one time, were not totally well. You used to run temperatures all the time. So as you got a little older, so one day, and you used to listen to the radio a lot. We didn't have television, while you were sick and so on. You liked to read. And one day you said to me, I'm not getting married when I grow up. I said, what brought that on? He said, well, I'm listening to the radio, and there are so many wonderful things that I hear that when I grow up, I want to travel and get to see all of these things. He says, and if I'm not married, I won't be able to do that. And I said, why do you say that? I said, you grow up, you might meet a girl that likes to travel, and you can travel with her. He says to me, he says, I don't believe that. He says, girls all they like to do is wear silk stockings and hats with feathers that look as though they're going to fly off. That's the answer.
Wise.
That's the
Beyond
answer.
his age.
That's the answer I got from him in those days. So that was the answer. Well, anyhow, you got better, and but you didn't get better, and that's what started this whole thing. You had an abscess. You ran these indiscriminate temperatures all the time, and you had an abscess underneath the kidney, and you're lucky that it didn't hit the kidney. And one night that broke. You had a temperature of about 105. Dad was out on a call. I didn't know what to do. I had a perina, you know, like a feather bed. Put that on top of you. I got on top of you to warm you and everything. Nothing helped. You were sick. So when Dad got back, he looked at your throat and he said, there's a problem there. Your temperature was high and that you have to be watched. So he had a milk bottle standing at your bed. And in the morning, when we got up, that abscess had broken and that milk bottle was full of blood. See? And so your temperature broke with it. So Dad decided to take you to see, or I don't know if he took you, but he went to see a friend of his who was a pathologist. And this Dad told him that he was thinking of leaving New York and taking him into a climate because he had these indiscriminate temperatures and everything. So he said to him, do you really think it's worth giving up everything to go and do that? And he said, yes, I do. He's my son. And he said, and I feel it's worth it. So that's when it all got started. So he wanted to get into, before that, he had a patient who he had sent out to Tucson. She lived in an apartment building in the neighborhood, and she had eczema, and she was a very sick girl and epilepsy. So the family had been all over New York City to all the fancy specialists, and then they decided to come to the neighborhood doctor, and he said, I can't do anything more for you. He says, but there's such a place called Tucson, and maybe you'd like to try going there, and sometimes a change of climate helps. Well, she was there 6 weeks, and a change of climate did help. This girl was talking about suicide and everything else. So with this, he was determined that we were going to go to. He always wanted to get out of New York. This is what spurred it on. So that's how that started. Wrote to the VA. They had room. You know, the VA, if it's a federal installation, you don't have to take an exam. Once you have your license, you're in. See, so there was no problem. Couldn't practice here privately, so you know he had to study here, but he had to study not medicine. He had to study physics and chemistry and all of that he had, you know, and he'd been away from it for 22 years. So, but he did it, and that's how he stayed here. So, but then he went back first, sold the practice to this German refugee. His practice sold the equipment, and the fellow fell into a good thing, believe me. And when we got out here, we struggled for a while, you know, and he went to the VA, and he hated it. That's it. So that's that phase. Now let me get back to Richard.
Yeah, I wanted to hear more about
Yeah,
Richard.
all right. I've given you some of that. I think
We've got
I.
about 10 minutes. And then
All right,
we'll stop. We'll take a
we
break.
can do it later.
We'll go to lunch and
That's it. We
dinner
can
and-
come back. Yeah.
Or tomorrow.
Or whenever. You can set it up. I don't care. So anyhow, Richard was born, and on May 20th, 1943. Richard was long and skinny. Don't forget, he's quite tall now, and he was long then. You were a round cherubic baby, see. He was not. So he was long and thin. So when people would look at him, they were expecting to see another round cherubic baby. They see a long, thin baby. So they'd look in the carriage and they'd look. They didn't say he's gorgeous. They'd say congratulations. You overheard a conversation about him that he wasn't good looking or whatever. So you got very indignant, and you said, "Really? You wait and see. He's grow up to be the handsomest man." And you were only about 5 years old when you, 4.5 when you said that. See, so you got to pat him on the back. No, you were a nice kid, but you were even as a small kid, you had a tendency to cry a lot. Boy, did you cry! So there was an older woman, who was in the waiting room and heard him cry. She comes, knocks at the door, and asks if she can come in. I says yes, because that little door separating the house and office together was not easy. So she says, "You know why he's crying? I bet you don't have socks on him. That's the modern thing. You people don't put socks on the babies, and their feet are cold." So she's telling me that's why you're crying. Well, I figured she's an older woman. I'll listen to her. And you know what? I put socks on you when you stopped crying. You were really cold. And I didn't know that. Because we were told only to use blankets around kids, and not to put socks on. So it worked. And you grew up to be a cute kid. You were cute. You loved to eat. Not a good eater, but you were the one. You wanted chocolate milk all the time. So you weren't such a great eater, but you ate nicely, and what you did, you loved American cheese. I couldn't bribe you with a piece of candy, but if I said I'm not going to give you American cheese, then you wanted American cheese. That was the bribe, so that was funny. You grew up nicely, had a cute little figure, you bounced around, and you weren't getting to be very good looking. And my mother was crazy about you. And I walked the carriage up and down and so on, and you got to be a nice little boy and so forth.
Is it true I was one of the youngest people ever to go to sleepaway camp?
You didn't go to sleepaway camp yet. Well, I had you both at Broad Channel Camp. Do you remember that?
Broad Channel Day Camp.
Day Camp, yeah. And everybody had to come back from Broad Channel Day Camp with a prize. And wait a minute.
I think I went to Walnut Mountain.
You went to
before I
Walnut
went to
Mountain?
Broad Channel.
No, I don't think so. You did? You sure? I don't know. I can't remember.
Tell me about Walnut Mountain Camp.
Walnut Mountain Camp, that was owned by this man who was a health specialist. What was his name?
Bernard McFadden.
McFadden, yeah. And, yeah. So, yeah, that's where you went. And I think you got the measles up there, if I'm not mistaken. Am I right?
I think so.
And I had to get you from the camp and bring you back. We took you to the hotel, and you looked like we were at a hotel, and bring you back from the hotel. There's a lot of funny stories connected with the camp. You you made a record, and, huh?
I think I made the record.
No, he did.
He made a record.
He made the record, and he said something about your brother. Oh yeah. I have me brother is here or something. Remember that? Me brother. Yeah, that was something. No, the young you went up there, and Sydney. There was another cousin that went up there too. I was the one who discovered the camp. Don't ask me how I discovered it, but I did. What are you looking at? Moth? Oh, and let's see. No, you really, it was just normal. You grew up nicely, and everything went nicely. Then you went to school.
Yeah,
I had him in nursery school. I showed the picture at the Ahava Sholem. Took him there. What?
Nothing, go ahead.
Yeah, then I think we all went to the Midwood Hotel, if I can remember correctly, didn't we?
After the camp?
I think so. I can't remember. Yeah, I think so. I know that we were at the Midwood
I
Hotel.
remember there are movies with us ice skating. I remember being in a hotel.
That's at the Midwood Hotel
Winter.
later on in the winter.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was later on. That was when I was on the sled, and I bumped my tailbone, and I couldn't sit for the whole time that I was there. But you were ice skating with what's his name's? He was the comedian. Sid Caesar, yeah. He was up there with his, yeah. So that was a nice time. We always, one thing, took you wherever we went. We went to Lakewood. We never left you back with babysitters or anything like that. Both of you, we went, wherever we went, we took you.
Why was
So,
that?
I don't know, we just felt as a family we enjoyed doing that. That was the way it was. And it was that way all the time. So, you know, well, it's all I can think of right now. I'll think of
two
a...
stories about the apartment. One, tell a story about Roosevelt's dying.
Oh, yeah. That was during office hours. And I'm sitting in the kitchen, and I hear that Roosevelt died. So I go into the waiting room, and I make an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to tell you that President Roosevelt just died. And everybody really collapsed, you know. Another thing was the war. You were 3 years old, and I was making a party for you. And we only used the waiting room as a living room when we didn't have office hours. All of a sudden, I'm trying to call everybody in to have ice cream and birthday cake, and nobody's budging. Everybody's listening to the radio. The war had started. See, World War had started, and nobody, they announced the war, and nobody came into the party.
And do you remember when the war ended and there were parties on the street?
That I don't remember too.
Outside of, on the corner of 7th Avenue and Avenue S.
7th Street.
7th Street.
You remember that?
I remember it.
I don't remember it, see?
Yeah.
I don't remember it. I remember when polio came and the people were standing all the way up the street. They wanted to get polio shots. And I remember standing out there with swabs of cotton, swabbing everyone's arm so they could get their shot. That I remember.
When was that? That was like in the 40s?
Well, it had to be before we moved out here.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometime then, you know, I don't know exactly.
The other story, I remember you're sitting in the kitchen looking at a bunch of diamonds for your ring.
Yeah,
Remember
you do?
that? Somebody brought
Yeah,
diamonds.
somebody brought me diamonds from Africa. It was a patient. And I took the diamond. We had several, but I took this one down to a place in New York that they appraised diamonds. I forget the name of the place. And a very famous place. And they said that they had never seen a stone like this. My stone is perfect blue, white, without a flaw. It is a perfect stone. And you very rarely see a diamond like that. I keep it in the vault. That's where it belongs. That I remember, and Dad bought that. He paid $2,000 for that. That, God knows, it's worth much, much more. So I never had a diamond. So because we were moving away, he felt, you know, maybe we won't be able to get anything, and I should have it. So that was it. That's how I got the diamond.
A man came over with diamonds.
Yeah, right.
Paper.
Right.
Yeah.
That was it.
All right.
Look how he remembers things. I don't remember.
Stop.
It's 7:30. You're going to eat so late?
That he also was ill. Remember he had mononucleosis before we came. Yeah.
That's not what he had. You want me to tell it?
Sure.
Well, when Richard, you know, I'm glad you reminded me because we almost lost Richard.
Venereal disease.
No, we almost Richard had bad tonsils. And Oscar took him to this doctor in Bensonhurst who had an office and home together, had his little hospital in the back of the house. And I came along, of course, and he was having his tonsils removed that day. So all of a sudden, I hear a scream and yelling and whatnot. It seems that Richard practically expired on the table. And Oscar was very, very upset with it and, you know, carried on and screamed at the doctor and whatnot. Well, anyhow, they finally revived him. And as a result of that operation, he developed mumps after the operation for some reason. He had mumps. And, you know, mumps wasn't such a pleasant thing. He swelled up, you know, on either side. I was sending him to school, all of a sudden I see swellings, you know. So that's that particular thing. But I don't know if that was a factor in coming to Tucson. Actually, there was more than one factor. Dad's back was bad, and when he came out here to visit, he loved the sun, and he was in the sun, and it helped him a lot.
Didn't you visit some male
Yes, he
friends?
did visit a patient of his that he had sent out here, and they had the girl had epilepsy, and that's the one I spoke about before, who was sent out here, and she got better, and he came out to see for himself, and then after he saw for himself and everything, and he liked Tucson, and he felt pretty good. And you developed that episode, so that was the real factor in bringing us out to Tucson. Okay, and that was it. But Richard was sick with that mumps business, and I keep forgetting all these little things. Also, we were kind of active, had a lot of fun with friends in New York. We had the Blotners, and we had he was a comedian. I forget his name. He was so funny. He was a hairdresser. He was a comedian. And we once had it. We used to have a lot of New Year's Eve. We had a New Year's Eve party, and whenever we do that, all the children would assemble in my house, and you'd all stay together, and we would go over to Blotner's down in their basement. And you remember that? Mm-hmm. And we had this New Year's Eve party, which was a lot of fun because supposedly, why can't I think of his name? But anyhow, he was supposed to be pregnant, and Oscar was supposed to be delivering him. Well, that was really you never heard anything like it. He had planted a red ball in there for the afterbirth, you know. And he was screaming during the delivery through the thing, and then all of a sudden this red ball bounces out during this delivery, and it was a lot of fun, really. I was dressed like a floozy girl, you know. I had old fur over one shoulder and a raggedy dress and whatnot. So we had a lot of fun along those lines, and that always came through a lot of the friendships through the Pythian.